Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time it is while you're watching this video. If you've requested a quote from Planet Apparel, you've probably heard the terms high resolution raster files and vector art, but what do they mean? Why are they important? So let's dive in. So raster files are going to be your JPEG, PNG, TIFF or TIFF, BMP, and GIF or GIF. Our vector files are going to be AI, EPS, SVG, and DXF. There are two types of digital art files, raster and vector. Raster files are made up of pixels, like a photograph. When you zoom in on a raster file, eventually it starts to look a little blurry. And when you get close enough, usually past 100% capacity, you start to see the pixels themselves. Vector files are created using mathematical formulas, usually in Illustrator, making them infinitely scalable without losing quality. When you zoom in to a vector file, the colors and the lines stay crisp and clear. You can resize a vector as big as you want, even to the size of a billboard. You can also, however, save a vector file as a raster file, JPEG or PNG, and it would have the same blur effect after saving it as a raster file, zooming in as any other raster file. When it comes to raster images, 300 dpi or dots per inch is the magic number. Lower resolutions may look fine on your screen, but they can turn into a blurry mess when printed. It's important to keep the size of the raster file the size you'll be printing at with 300 dpi at the same time. That way there's no need to zoom in, losing the quality. For example, a 4:6 image at only 72 pixels per inch would have a total pixel dimension of 288 pixels height by 432 pixels width. That means that there would only be 288 pixels spread out over the whole 4 inches by 6 inches. To make that stretch, each of those 288 pixels would need to be rather large, resulting in a blurry, pixelated image. In screen printing, DPI refers to the number of dots per ink that can be printed in a square inch. The higher the DPI, the more detail and sharpness can be achieved in the printed image. So let's go over a few uses of raster and vector images in graphic design. First, we've got logos. Logos are almost always going to be vector and saved as an EPS, SVG, or PDF so that the company can use it on anything. Well, infinitely scalable. But you might need to create JPEGs or PNG files for the web, and those are raster graphics. You can also save your logo as an SVG, which is a scalable vector graphic suitable for web. More and more people are using nowadays. Photos are also always raster, and there's really no way around this. You can vectorize them, technically, but you will lose detail and it'll look really bad. So I would just leave them in a raster format. With printing like a brochure, business card, you're most likely going to have a mix of both vector and raster graphics, as long as the rasters were saved to size at 300 dpi. It's usually best to save as a PDF so that parts of the brochure that are vectored, like fonts and logos, keep their quality. PDF retains vector, but of course you're going to have photos which are raster. Office documents in Word or PowerPoint, you're going to need a JPEG or a GIF, aka raster images. In Office documents, of course, the fonts are vector. You can use PNG files as well, which have a transparent background. Sublimation. If you're creating a sublimation file, you're always going to want a very high quality, 300 dpi or more, PNG file with a transparent background, and that's considered a raster. Cut files for cutting machines like a Cricut or Cricut need to be SVG files or DXF, which is a lesser used vector file type. That way the cutting machine can see the lines and know where to cut. One thing that most cutting machines have now is software that can convert a raster image into a vector for cutting. It just might not look that pretty. Web, you can use JPEG or PNG, which are raster, but as I mentioned earlier, you can also use an SVG, which is becoming more and more widely used. Those are all the uses for raster and vector images in a nutshell. Why does this matter for screen printing? In screen printing, clarity is king. High-resolution raster files and vector art ensure crisp lines and vibrant colors for you and your company, making your design come alive just the way that you envisioned it. To sum it up, providing a high-resolution raster file at 300 dpi at the size that you want it, or a vector art file, is not just a random requirement. It's the key to unlocking the best possible print for your project. I hope this clears up any confusion. Thanks so much for taking your time to learn a little bit about the files that we need to give you the best print quality possible. Reach out if you have any questions.